Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker was last weekend. It was an absolute barn burner. Tons of stuff standing, tons of stuff on the ground. The story of the fight, in my opinion, is all about Dustin Poirier and how he can prove that he's been in this game for a long time, but he's still in his prime, yet he has achieved a crafty veteran status, which is rare to happen when you're still in your prime. No knock on Dan Hooker. He fought excellently, proved himself to be in the top 5 that he deserves to be there, posed some very significant threats to a guy like Dustin Poirier, especially their range, created some problems that Poirier had to adjust to and overcome, but ultimately Dustin did do just that, and that's what leads to his performance being the story of the fight, and we'll get into it right now. So the first obstacle that you have to overcome fighting someone like Dan Hooker is his range. He does a lot of pretty cool things to keep you away and keep you in his range, where he can pick you apart with some pretty powerful shots on the outside. And that's the first thing that Dustin has to adapt to. One of the ways that Hooker keeps you away is his kicks. He has incredible leg dexterity, and he has a ton of volume with his legs. Right at the start of the fight, he'll throw a feint low kick and then go to the real low kick right away. And you'll see that right here. He feints low right there and then goes to the body there. And he just keeps you away with those kicks. Dustin lands a good body kick right there as well, which is going to happen when it's southpaw versus orthodox. One thing that just happened right there is Hooker throws that feint, that body kick feint right there, and Dustin doesn't really bite on it. And one thing you'll notice from Hooker is he'll throw a feint, and if you don't bite a ton on it right away, he instantly just throws the same technique right away. It works pretty well for him, and it keeps you away, it keeps you guessing. And so I'll play it fast speed right here. He'll feint with that the right leg here to the body, and then Dustin doesn't really react, and then he just throws it right away back to the body, and that works to some pretty good success for him. There's the feint, and there's the body kick. So he continues to do this kind of stuff throughout the first couple rounds, and I think it largely contributed to his success and the fact that he won those first 2 rounds. Another combo that he does really well, and you'll see right there that just keeping him at that kicking range, even though Dustin caught that kick, he comes back with a left of his own, which he's really good with. He still can't quite close the distance on him. He just whiffs real quick. And in the first round, Dustin did have some issues landing on Hooker. Other than that body kick, which again happens a ton with the stance matchup that they have. Other than that kick in the first round, he doesn't really land much significant strikes. And another combo that Hooker does is he'll throw the low line calf kick, and you can't really. It's hard to check those. So one of the things you do is you scoot back, like right there. So you scoot that leg out of the way. Hooker throws the low line calf kick. It lands. It scoots Dustin's leg back. And to compensate for that scoot, you'll see the leg comes back, and now his posture is broken, and his head is leaning straight forward, which is right in punching range for Hooker. And you'll see with his lead hand here, he'll throw that jab out. It doesn't quite land, but it is a combo that he continues to throw. The low line calf kick, you lean forward, he'll pop you with the jab. Like I said, it doesn't land here, but it keeps you away, and ultimately that's important as well. So here's fast speed, bam. Another thing that really contributed to this fight is the fact that it was at the Apex Center with no crowd. It gave the fight a ton of character, which ultimately adds to how much you enjoy it, in my opinion. There's things that you can hear that you normally wouldn't hear. Like, one of the things that happens when you throw this many kicks is you may land a low shot to the cup. And in this first round, Hooker throws 2 back-to-back kicks that land on Poirier's cup. And the first one, whatever, they shrug it off. Second one, obviously you're going to be a little bit more frustrated if you're Poirier getting kicked in the cup back-to-back times. And one thing that we get out of this fight is Bisping is commentating, and he kind of voices the frustration for Poirier in that moment, and Poirier can hear Bisping, which he normally can't do without with a crowd. and he hears Bisping, and now we get to hear Poirier talk to Dan Hooker and kind of comment on the fact that he hears Bisping, and I'll play that right here.
How big at least Hooker looks at lightweight.
Okay, good. Right. Got him right in the cup. Poirier says it's all good.
Yeah, that's what the cup's for. First round, you don't want to take a break. Oh, there it is again. That's 2 in a row. Like, come on, dude.
Listen to Bisping.
So little things like that. Ultimately, obviously, that's not going to. I mean, if you're swinging, trading shots, that's going to be more important in contributing to if a fight's good or not. But little things like that can definitely add character to a fight, and I think that plays a big part. I've never seen anything like that, and we definitely would not have seen that if there was a crowd. So the kicks are frustrating to deal with if you're someone like Poirier and you need to get on the inside, but you cannot get reckless and just try to close that gap guns blazing against someone like Hooker, because I think his best weapon is that standing knee he throws, that right knee. Poirier spoke about it before the fight, said that he thinks it's his most dangerous weapon, and he also said after the fight that the only time he was really hurt was when Hooker landed one of those knees. And again, 15 seconds into the fight, this is the first round, Hooker feints with that knee, that standing knee. Basically just a message saying, hey, if you try to blitz me, if you try to get past my range, this knee's coming for you, and we'll see it right here. And he throws it a ton throughout the fight. He doesn't land it always. Sometimes you can see, like right there, he just kind of throws it as almost like a quick self-defense thing, like it's just in his nature to throw it. And he throws it really well, and he, like I said, he had a ton of success. Dustin felt it. He lands it in the clinch against the cage at standing range. It's a super versatile attack, and you'll see at the end of the second round, he really lands it here. Bam, and bam. And that's the one I think that Dustin was talking about hurting him. And you can see the end of the round was tough for him. He ate like an 8-punch combo right before that. But the knees are definitely just another factor you have to worry about. You can't just blitz on Hooker to close that gap, or you'll eat a knee. So back to the story of the fight. The story of the fight for me is the fact that Poirier can be in his prime and be a crafty vet. And one of the ways he demonstrates that is his ability to adapt and overcome the problems that Hooker presents. The first thing being those kicks and the range. So how does he overcome it? I said in the first round he had some difficulties landing on Hooker, but here with 10 seconds left in the round, you'll see him land a clean right hand. And that's the most significant strike he lands in the first round. And basically the way he does it is a combo that he has used in the past, and he used a ton in this fight. This is the first time it lands clean. So he throws the left hand, the rear left hand right there, throws it again, and then the right hand over the top. Lands flush. So, so what happens here is when he throws that left hand, you'll see he lunges with it to close that gap, and you'll see Hooker just kind of match his movement and move away from it. Then when he paws out the second time like that, you'll see Hooker frame with his lead hand and try to keep Poirier away. But that right hand's already cocked, and that's going to come right over the top. So right there. And he continues to throw this throughout the fight. That's 10 seconds left of the first round. It's the best strike he landed so far. And then you'll see at the start of the second round, he throws it immediately. He knows he had success with it. He knows that's the key right there. That's how I'm getting close to him. And right there. So this is 15 seconds into the second round. There's the left hand. This time he throws it to land. The first time he just threw it to find the range. He doubles up on it right there. And then right over the top. Right there. And he goes back to this over and over and over again. Another thing that worked really well for him is when they got up close is the right uppercut. In the clinch, so right there. So Hooker ties him up, and Poirier is able to sneak this right uppercut right in there. You would expect Hooker to go for that knee in this position, and Poirier is first, and he lands that right uppercut. And it really just highlights the fact that no matter what position they're in, Poirier has an answer, and I'll touch on that a little bit more. And there's that combo again. Another thing that it does is it negates the knee from Hooker in that close range, so he can close the gap with this combo and not really worry about that right knee coming up. And part of that is just because of the angle that it creates. So, like right there. So when Hooker comes in, he lands the left, the right hand comes in, he misses with it, but you'll see right there, there's no angle for this knee to come up and hit him, and it's a genius combo for someone like Hooker, because that's his answer for you getting close. So we'll keep this going. It's just more examples of him landing this shot, and it's not a perfect shot. There are answers to it, and you'll see Hooker realize those answers right here. So I'll go back here. This was the start of the big flurry at the end of the second round that Hooker had a ton of success with and really hurt Dustin with. But Dustin closes the gap with the left, and then pause it again, just a touch, and then here's the right hand. Doesn't cleanly land. Hooker now this time stays in the pocket instead of escaping and just lets him have it. So it's not an answer to everything, that combo, but it is a really strong weapon that helps him overcome the range in this fight. The other thing that Poirier does at range is throw the body kick. Since it's southpaw versus orthodox, they both throw this kick a lot in this fight. Poirier lands it well right here and throughout the fight. This next one, Hooker is able to grab him and clinch him, bring him to the cage, and this is where it starts to really shine that Poirier has an answer in every position in this fight, and I think ultimately led to Hooker being more exhausted just because there's no safe place for him. Poirier has an answer everywhere. He's just such a crafty vet. Right here, he throws the knee, and that forces Hooker to kind of frame him away with his hand. Poirier's got the tie clinch, and when he pushes on these legs here to prevent against the next knee coming, it opens up a gap right here, and Poirier recognized that instantly, and he sneaks in this elbow right there, and then circles away. He doesn't win every exchange in these positions, but every position he has an answer and continues to make Hooker work. And right here he does something that I've never seen before, and it just speaks to his creativity. He throws like these hammer fists against the cage, and they look pretty gnarly. They sound pretty gnarly. I'll play it right here. I've never seen that before. He throws it with some pretty bad intentions. I've never seen that, and it just speaks to the creativity and the fact that he'll find something to throw in every position, and that must be exhausting. He has excellent head movement against the cage right there. There's that uppercut again from earlier, and then right here you see him land the elbow, then the right hand, then the right again. You can't really see it very well from this angle, but he creates space with this elbow, but not a ton of space. It knocks Hooker to his left so that Poirier can land this right hand, and you can't see it from there, but Poirier has to keep that right hand tucked to himself to land clean in that range, and that's the type of like body awareness that he has, and that just comes with experience. He's so accurate. So the right hand, or the left hand there, sorry, doesn't land, but then this next right hand lands again, and we'll see it again right here in slow motion at a better angle. The left elbow starts the combo right there, nice and clean, and you'll see right here the right hand stays tucked to the body. It stays tight because it's a tight gap right there. He lands it clean, knocks him over to the right. The left hand doesn't do much, but now back-to-back strikes with his right hand, he has to have a real tight one and then a little bit more lengthy one to find the range here, and he lands it clean on Hooker as he fades away there. And again, every position he has something. So this is what I'm going to use to open up the grappling and just showcase Dustin's experience here. He's getting lit up from that same combo earlier, and he shoots for this takedown, doesn't get it, but he uses it to survive, and that's just a crafty move there. It's a veteran move, just kind of disrupt the game, and I'm going to use that to segue into the grappling of this fight. Really fun grappling, and I'm just going to show every one of Hooker's takedowns because towards the end of this fight, starting in the third round, Hooker really started shooting on him a ton, and Dustin had to adapt his response to that. So this is the first one here. Dustin does his patented guillotine defense. It's not super tight here. You can see it's not very tight, but you'll see him lean in here, right here, and cinch that up. Gets it way tighter right there. Still doesn't get it. They're slippery at this point, but that's tough right there. Hooker gets out. Credit to him. And that's that takedown there. This time, Hooker catches the leg and drives, and you'll see Dustin go for the butterfly sweep. He doesn't get it, but he rocks back, almost gets it, but uses that momentum to roll him back forward. So he rocks back, rolls him forward, and now uses that to get up and finds his way over to the cage. Here's another shot here that he goes right back to that guillotine for, slips right out as soon as he gets taken down. People criticized him for continuing to go for that guillotine, but I say the exact opposite. That was his defense at the beginning, but once he realized that it wasn't working, he adapts, and I think that's what ultimately is the story of the fight, the fact that he can change up his approach during the fight. Here's another deep shot. He goes for that guillotine, drops down. This one I think is a little different than the others because, as you see, there's only 30 seconds left, less than 30 seconds left in the fight, or the round, sorry, and he goes for it. Not a big deal that he finishes up on the ground there if he doesn't get the guillotine. Hooker does a pretty sweet little slam right there, just a mini slam to get himself out of it. I'll show that again. That's fun. Here he drops again. The fifth round, the takedowns were a lot more labored from Hooker, as you can tell. He's exhausted at this point. Poirier is still pretty fresh. He just kind of pushes him off that time. That time he doesn't go for the guillotine. He just goes for a heavy sprawl. Here's another shot here up against the cage. And Hooker here Poirier defends pretty well, but ultimately gets taken down. I just wanted to include that, and I'm going to touch back on that takedown later on. Here he goes for that guillotine, but he doesn't drop down. See, now it's different. He just uses it for defense. That's that adaptability that I like to see. Here he just sprawls deep on him. Doesn't just go for the guillotine. You can tell he's changing his approach here towards the end of the fight. Hooker doesn't have much left at this point. Shoots again, shrugs him off, catches him shooting that time, times it well. Has the guillotine. This time he just really muscles him down with that guillotine, pretty gnarly, and that's pretty sweet takedown defense in my opinion. He does get taken down a few times, sometimes for the guillotine, sometimes Hooker just gets him down, and I'm going to touch back on that when they do end up on the ground. So when they do go to the ground, Poirier does some real cool stuff to escape the top game of Hooker. Obviously Hooker's not known for his top game, but here we see Hooker shoot, and Poirier goes for that guillotine, but it slips right out right away. But you'll see he pushes away to create the space and get his feet on the hips, pushes him out. Hooker stays on him here, but Dustin does a sweet little spin, gets out of there, and hits him with a left, and then shoots on his own, just to say, hey, I can get you down too. That's fun. This next one, Hooker gets him down in a pivotal moment, in my opinion, and instantly you see Poirier scoot back to the cage, in which he gets that his right arm underneath the chin, or close to at least. Now he pushes down with his left hand on Hooker's head, and as he posts with his right hand, he can use that to get his hips up and pull his legs right out, and now he's up. Fun stuff from Poirier there. Here, Hooker has his back, and you'll see Poirier start to shimmy to the left and then try to hit the switch here. He doesn't get it right away. Goes for the switch, doesn't get it, and then right here you'll see him spin right out of it, and that's just expert stuff in the fourth round. To have the energy to burst like that, that's just, I mean, that's fun to watch. So here I'm going to transition to the instances where Hooker does maintain top control, or just when they're on the ground. And this is where the fight gets really fun for me. The first half of this fight is pretty much all stand-up, back and forth stand-up. Hooker won the first 2 rounds. Here we're in the 3rd round to start showing some of this, and the later half of this fight has a lot more grappling, and the grappling, I wouldn't say it's as back and forth as the stand-up is, but it's definitely just as fun, if not more fun in my opinion. So we'll see here, this is that first shot when Dustin goes for that guillotine. Again, not super tight there, but he is going to lean into it and then get it much tighter here. So that right there, I mean, the strain he has on his neck there, that doesn't happen on a loose guillotine. That's tight there, but they are slippery, and Hooker does do a good job of getting out of it. But instantly you see Dustin go for more submissions off his back, which is my favorite part of the sport. So he has his left overhook here, trapping that shoulder of Hooker, pinning it down, and then you see this right hand controlling Hooker's left arm. He's doing that so that he can push that arm away, clear his own right leg up, and try to get it over this neck here to set up that triangle. It doesn't quite get it, but you see he throws that arm back there and tries to swing this leg up. Doesn't quite get it. Hooker does a good job defending. He knows what's coming, but he still has this arm trapped here, and he's just waiting there. He goes back for the hand. He pushes it down, doesn't quite get it. Hooker gets it free, starts landing some shots of his own, but he still has this arm trapped here, and that's the start right there. He goes back for wrist control, switches to his right hip to create space, pushes his arm down over here, and again, here's the knee. He's trying to sneak this up and then throw it over the top of Hooker's neck, but again, he does not get it. Tries again there, still nothing. Here he has the knee. Hooker does a good job of clamping down though, getting out of there. And you see Poirier's hips are much lower now. He gives up that far side overhook and then switches instantly to the right overhook here. And you see he immediately goes hand on the right arm of Hooker to try to attack that side. And there he goes, tries to get his knee up and over. But again, Hooker does a good job defending. And there we see the first elbow from the bottom from Poirier right here. There it is. And he does some really cool strikes from the bottom here, just to, in my opinion, solidify the fact that yes, he's on the bottom, but he is winning in this situation. It's not like Hooker's getting an easy show. Here's one of my favorite strikes on the ground. You see Poirier post up Hooker's head. Hooker's trying to push down here, and Poirier is giving him resistance there, and he's just going to slip this hand off, and as Hooker is pushing down, once the hand slips off, his head shoots down and just lands right on the elbow of Poirier, right there. Does it a couple times, lifts the head, there's the elbow, throws it back, it's there. And then with those strikes, now Hooker is focusing on that, and you see here, while he's throwing those strikes, once he throws that right hand there, he traps this arm from Hooker and instantly throws his legs up in the mix of those strikes to try to get that arm bar. Doesn't get it, but it's a cool attempt. And when you're constantly attacking with strikes and submissions, that's super fun on the ground. And here's another part of how crafty Poirier is and just the experience that he has. He recognizes he's in the Apex Center, no crowd, all that stuff. He knows he's been on his back for a while. He knows, hey, I'm working here, but the judges might not understand what's going on. So minute 37 left, he goes ahead and asks how much time there is, and we can hear that because there's no crowd.
As much damage as we go into the third and fourth round.
Says, what's the time? I'll go back one more time.
As much damage as we go into the third and fourth round.
What's the time? And he realizes there's a whole minute left of this round. I can't just stay on my back here even though I'm attacking. He goes for that overhook, or the whizzer there with his right arm, scoots to the cage. Not really going for that guillotine there, just using it to create a spot for him to get up there. And then he gets up, eats a knee there, but it ultimately gets up, and that's a super fun moment in the fight. I saw some people online talking about the Thugjitsu moniker that Dustin uses under Eve Edwards. I think people forgot about him, and I saw some people joking around about that and not realizing that it's some pretty legit stuff that Dustin brings. We saw it off his back there, and then I'm going to show a couple other things that he does that I think he maybe learned a little bit from his Khabib fight, some top pressure and stuff, and just some real creative stuff. He eats a knee there, he goes for this takedown, and he doesn't get it. Hooker had some pretty damn good takedown defense in this fight, but what Dustin does here is just so creative and crafty. He goes for the trip right there, doesn't get it. Hooker, again, great defense, but what Dustin does here is he gets his hips lower than Hooker. Right here you can see his hips are lower. He's got a pretty decent head position here. He still has this leg trapped, and he just pushes into the cage there. And Hooker's in a kind of a weird position here where he can't really, he doesn't have a good base. Dustin has good head position here, and then he can't really do anything to block here. And we see some heavy uppercuts again from Poirier. He just has him trapped here. An excellent pressure from him. I guess top pressure, but also, I mean, just against the cage. And that's some real fun stuff. Those uppercuts are brutal. Hooker does a good job getting out of there eventually. And here we talked about it earlier where Dustin creates the space to get these feet on the hips. He pushes Hooker away. Hooker stays on him, and then he is able to explode out with that spin, hits him with that left, and then shoots again on his own, takes him down. And here you can see Hooker is feeling it pretty heavy. And here's where, again, Dustin learned from his loss against Khabib. You see here the way he has these legs. It's not a full mount. He's not up here yet. He is controlling the far side wrist of Hooker, while Hooker's looking a little exhausted. You see Dustin here, to maintain this top pressure, you'll see him scoot up and really pinch these legs together and pinch down on them. And that really just takes the base away from Hooker here. He moves his hand out of the way, excellent head position, eats some body shots there, and here's some real just situational awareness from Poirier that really speaks to his experience. As Hooker is trying to get away here, he has Dustin's arm trapped. Dustin can't do much from this position until he gets this free. So what he does is he buries his face here, almost in the armpit, and then he'll pull, so he digs his head into that armpit there, and then he pulls his left arm back. And that breaks that grip, and he can either go for this wrist here to pull that base out, or he can start striking Hooker's face. And what he does is he grabs that far side hand from Hooker, feeds it to his right arm from behind. You see him have 2-on-1 there. He pulls that out. Now Hooker can't base or post on that hand, and Poirier is able to open up with some nasty ground and pound here. He lands a big elbow here. Again, right before the elbow, Hooker grabs the arm of Poirier so that he can't strike anymore. So what does Poirier do? Instantly head in the armpit, and he pulls that arm away, breaks that grip, and now he can land his shots. I think here comes the elbow right there. Nasty elbow. And Hooker can't really do anything but try to just scramble out of there, which he does do. That's the downside of landing ground and pound like that. You give up space, and Hooker uses that space well. Again, he goes for that far side to try to remove that post. Hooker does a good job defending that, but he does eat a couple more shots trying to get up. Here, Poirier, and here's where that Thugjitsu really comes in. He tries to take the back. He almost had that hook in. As he steps over, he slips off, and it's like, damn, he was working hard for that, almost got it. But he transitions here. He uses these hooks with his legs to stay on top. He's really trapping himself onto Hooker here, so Hooker can't just shake him off. And see, this arm here is still trapped. So what he's going to do is switch to like a modified arm bar here. It's not ideal, but it does get it almost gets the job done. He gets this arm, and he does a good job of hipping up and turning and trying to get this arm bar. Hooker stays patient, does good here. So here Poirier traps it under his armpit to try to get more an anchor on it. Ditches that. Here's where he almost gets it. That doesn't feel good. There's no way that feels good, especially right there. Hooker does a decent job of trying to step over with this leg to try to create a better angle for himself, and ultimately he does. He gets the knee on the belly and forces Poirier to switch. But he switches so effortlessly to that omoplata where he locks this up, and now he's going to try to raise this hand towards his own knee to try to crank the shoulder here on Hooker. It's a hard shoulder lock to pull off, especially when Hooker has his knee on Dustin's body here. And you see Dustin maintaining the hand control, and what Hooker does here is smart, is he pushes Poirier against the fence and just tries to delete the space that he has to work on this. And so Dustin pushes that knee off. So that's a good defense from Hooker, is having that knee on Dustin's belly, and Dustin's going to push that knee away so that he can sit up. Because if he can get a sit up, he can crank that arm. But he can't quite get it. The cage is in the way. It's difficult. Goes for some hammer fists, and then Hooker does a good job of stepping over again with that knee and just continuing to turn that way until Dustin's just forced against the cage. And ultimately, Hooker's going to pull out of it. But just super crafty stuff from Dustin on the ground there. And it's just cool to watch. I saw people kind of talking shit about the Thugjitsu thing online, and I think hopefully now they think it's real. But yeah, it's just such a good fight. There's so many different moments that Dustin, so many little moments that he did so many cool little things I've never seen before, and just showed that he's learned so much and that he's a full veteran of the sport, but not at the end of his career. He's still top talent in the UFC, and that's the story of the fight in my opinion.